Hey everyone, my name is Matthew Griffin. I'm the CEO and founder of the 311 Institute, a futures and deep futures think tank looking up to 50 years out. I cross over 600 emerging technologies, hundreds of megatrends, every sector, every line of business. And last year I was in over 60 countries, basically. So I have quite a good hand on the wheel, basically, when it comes to emerging technologies and the futures that we are trying to create and shape. Now, in this particular presentation, this was actually given to a very select group of individuals, basically in Geneva a little while ago, including the CTO of Microsoft. And funnily enough, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be talking about the future of deepfakes and synthetic content. Now, you might be wondering basically why Fluffy the cat. However, on the one hand, I'm told that if you have a cat in a video, it helps you go viral. But on this occasion, Fluffy the cat is a cyber cat. And there is a very, very good reason why Fluffy is actually in the title slide. And I will explain that in a little bit. However, before I kick off, I want to introduce you to one of my buddies, a long-time fan, someone basically that just thinks I am awesome and superb. And who knows, even the next president. If he stands, of course.
Listen up to this man in front of you. He wrote a damn book on deepfakes before they were a thing.
I certainly did write a book on deepfakes before they were a damn thing. And actually, in this particular video, in one of the sessions I was in, they didn't actually know that it was a deepfaked Barack Obama. And they've actually met Barack Obama. So in this particular case, I actually created this deepfake for no money down. And there are lots and lots of different ways, even with the best detection tools, basically, that I can create deepfakes of world leaders and get them to say pretty much everything that I actually want. Now, as an introduction to that, one of the ways that we can actually create fake content of leaders that can't be caught is most biometric detection systems will try to detect the distance between my friend Barack's eyes. And then they will say, this is a deepfake of Barack Obama, and we'll take it down. However, did you know basically that if you stretch the image or the video just a little bit, it throws most biometric detection systems off? So in this presentation, we're going to be talking through how we create deepfakes, where the technology is headed, also how to defeat it, and we are going to be talking about a game of cat and mouse. Now, as Barack has said, thanks Barack, I wrote a book on deepfakes and synthetic content actually about 5 to 6 years ago. Now it's this one here, conveniently called The Future of Synthetic Content. It goes up to 2035. I haven't actually edited it for a couple of years because it doesn't need it. It's actually still in date. Now, if you actually would like to download a free copy basically of this book, click this thing here and then you will find it, and then you can read to your heart's content basically on what we are doing, why we're doing it, and what the heck's going to be going on in the future. Now, from a global perspective, we live in VUCA Max times. In the 1970s, the US military coined the phrase VUCA, which we all know. It's in pretty much every McKinsey deck out there, isn't it? You know, volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous times. However, recently we've been adding the MAX acronym to the back of it because increasingly all of the changes and disruptions that we're actually seeing happen around the world are global in nature. They are system level. So think about the environment, think about politics, think about the economic rewiring of the planet and so on and so forth, and you've got a good idea. In addition to that, everything is accelerating. And then on top of that, everything is starting to move exponentially. Now, as a futurist, obviously we talk in terms of exponential technologies, and I have plenty of those, basically I can show you, and some of them I will. However, we're also increasingly moving at an exponential rate. And that's when we have a look at things like digital and the move to artificial intelligence and how those are actually speeding up change and transformation around the world. Now, from a technology perspective, if we really want to understand the future of deepfakes, We need to understand the future of a variety of different converging technologies. Now, this is my starburst. It has over 167 emerging technologies on it, up to 50 years out, and each individual dot represents the point in time when I think that that technology is going to be commercially mature enough for you to use it to make a product. And of course, if we are making a product, for example, a deepfake or synthetic content, then it's always a combination of different technologies. Now, when we actually have a look at our friends, the deepfakes, we need a few things. Now, on the one hand, basically, we need things like compute. We need rendering engines at the moment because we are rendering different frames together. And James Huang, basically, who is the CEO of NVIDIA, says that by 2030, most GPUs will actually not render images. They will generate images. So we will move from rendering computer chips and platforms to generative chips and platforms. And generative chips basically require much, much more power, in the order of magnitude of an extra millionfold, in order to do what they do. But that's a conversation maybe for another time. We also need artificial intelligence. Now, in the case of deepfakes, we use convolutional neural networks. We also use generative adversarial networks and a few other things as well. And when we start taking all these different technologies and combining them together, we end up basically with a good enough deepfake to fool you and pretty much every other voter on the planet. So, when we move around the wheel, when we now have a look at the world that we're in, as I mentioned earlier, we are moving at the speed of artificial intelligence. Now, what I mean by that is I first started talking about deepfakes, as it turns out, a year before Gartner, which is something I found out about 3 weeks ago. Sorry, Gartner. These images I showed in 2016, 2017, basically to a group from Bloomberg in London at the RAC Club. And if you scan this little QR code here, you can see one of my original presentations, which was titled The Future of Trust. Now, all those years ago, which makes me sound old, I said, in the future, we will have artificial intelligence systems, basically, that will be able to create all kinds of different content, music, video, you name it. And these little images here are the first text-to-video images. They were created by Stanford University, and there were about 300 people in the room at the RAC Club, and when I started playing this, you could see them all go, oh. However, let's face it, this technology looks rather sucky. I think this one here is a golfer. And obviously we've got a swimmer over there as well. But realistically, these are very, very small. They're very low resolution. You wouldn't want to watch them for any particular amount of time. They basically suck. But at the time, they were cutting edge technology. And it cost Stanford about $5 million, basically, in researchers to put these together. Fast forward to today, basically, and you can use a platform like Sora from OpenAI to generate video quality images and product, basically, that is pretty much high definition. Now, when we actually have a look at the future of misinformation and disinformation, so there are two different strands here. Misinformation is where I mistakenly represent a piece of information to you. So I simply say 1 + 1 = 3, and it's a mistake. Disinformation, however, is where I say 1 + 1 = 3, but I actually promote it as the accurate piece of information. I'm purposefully trying to deceive you. So when we actually have a look at the future of misinformation and disinformation, it's important to separate the two out. And increasingly, misinformation and disinformation, as well as deepfakes, are a new ground zero. And if you want to master the new ground zero, you only really need 2.5 things. Now, firstly, you need to be able to master pixels and sound. Because if I can master how pixels are put on the screen in front of you right now, and I can master the sound that you hear, then I can generally start to manipulate you and do things. However, it's the other thing, the half a thing, that is the missing part of this particular jigsaw puzzle, because if I really want to start using the control of pixels and sounds to manipulate you and wider society, I need good old-fashioned national security style psyops. Because we're all human, most of us anyway, and I can present different kinds of information in different ways, and you will have a different kind of response and a different kind of emotional attachment to it. And I'll talk to you about that later. So you combine the mastery of pixels and sound with state level psyops, and now we have a way to influence, control, etc., the opinions and behaviors of every single person that is looking at something behind a screen. Which then brings us to this. As we increasingly get to the point where we have perfect mastery of pixels and sound, you should at no point in the future trust anything. And what I mean by that is trust no one. So that is no human. That is no AI bot. That is no digital human. So trust no one. And then also trust nothing. Now that is video, it's images and all those kinds of things as well, but it's also text, because I can use these same generative artificial intelligences to create fake reports and all kinds of different things, which I then use a trend called malvertising to get them to the top of Google ads. So you're now reading the information I want you to read, and you're believing my narrative. So increasingly, trust no one and nothing. And I dive into this concept in a little bit more detail. Basically, I did a session with Disney a little while ago on the future of online child safety, and we actually sort of go really into this trend. And yeah, I'll put a link to that basically in the comments below. Now, from a State of the Union perspective, when we actually have a look at where we are with deepfakes today, the fact of the matter is that the cost of creating all forms of content, whether it's music, whether it's movies, movie clips, basically whether it is video, whether it is text, etc., everything is dropping to zero. So this is where we often talk about the democratization of content creation. And increasingly, it's low cost to create deepfakes. As my friend Barak basically saw, it cost me nothing. It's low risk because the likelihood of me getting caught creating a nefarious or malicious deepfake is incredibly low. So when we have a look at cyber attribution tools, good luck finding me. But it's high reward because in most cases, I can actually use this state of misinformation and disinformation to destroy, democracy, let alone other things. Maybe destroy shareholder value, maybe to tank your share price while buying the bottom and then I sell at the top. So low cost, low risk, high reward. What's not to like for the fledgling criminal? We also get to this. We also have any input to any output. Now, what I mean by this is at the moment we're using text to, for example, create images and video and so on and so forth, but I could use my voice. As I'll show you later, I can use my mind. That's it. If I can get it to work, obviously. And in terms of any output, I can use my voice to get an artificial intelligence to create a new video, a new movie, a new piece of music, or I can get it to create a new piece of software or a new product that I then 3D print. So that's where I can use my voice to use an artificial intelligence or direct an artificial intelligence to create a 3D rendered model of something, which I then go off and put into production. So inevitably, we also kind of see this natural life cycle to things. So at the moment, I as the human input certain sets of information into the artificial intelligence. As we move into the future, it's myself and the artificial intelligence working in tandem to create whatever it is I want to create. And then we have full autonomy and fully autonomous systems. So that is where, for example, I could simply set an artificial intelligence to auto and it will produce 1,000 movies a day, forever, until someone unplugs the little beastie. Now, when we actually try to use artificial intelligence and different tools on our truck today to create, say, a movie, movies are the ultimate kind of content that we want to create. However, in order to create a scene like this, or to create a movie like Blade Runner, an artificial intelligence would actually need to be able to do lots and lots of different things. Firstly, it would actually need to know that if a building is burning, that smoke and flames rise. When we have a look at things like the vehicle, it would have to know what a vehicle is. It would have to know what shape a vehicle might be. Might have to know things about materials. When we look at things like gravel, it would have to understand basically how that is shaped, how it's affected by rain. When we have a look at things like perspective, it would need to understand that the tail of this car basically is going to be bigger basically than Ryan Gosling, for example, in this particular case. It also needs to understand what a storyline is, what a start, middle and end is, how to put a script together, the clothes basically that Mr. Gosling is wearing. And these are very different clothes to the clothes he was wearing in the Barbie movie. That's it. So an AI needs to understand then how all of these different things interact, the tone that we want to give Mr. Gosling, the attitude, the persona of the character, how that character interacts with other characters and the sets around them. So in order to create an artificial intelligence that you can press a magic button on and it just spits out a blockbuster style movie, we have a long way to go. But this is where, when we have a look at the movie workflow, increasingly what we are doing is we are automating individual parts of the movie workflow. And then as we put these individual parts of the movie workflow together, such as scripting, such as colorization, such as editing and all those kinds of things, as we start unifying all of these different individual automated innovations together, generally into a platform, at that point, I'm going to be able to use AI to help me create an artificial intelligence movie without me having to lift too many fingers. And we estimate basically that the first AI movies, the ones that make you raise an eyebrow, basically will be in about 2 years' time. I mean, if you think about most movies, they actually have short clips. You know, you might have a character in a scene for say 10 to 15 seconds, then we cut to another one. Now we can already kind of create those kinds of miniature movies basically using platforms like Sora. And the problem that we have at the moment basically with AI is ensuring continuity between these different scenes. So, you know, we're now having to sort of make sure that the continuity is there. So as you can see, it's not a straightforward thing to do. But in terms of using artificial intelligence and other technologies basically to create short form video, that's much, much easier today. Now, when we have a look at deepfakes and synthetic content, but we're going to focus more on deepfakes for the rest of this, I regard it as the new cyber. The reason for that basically is cyber is a weaponized set of technologies basically that is designed to inflict harm or cause damage or to help nefarious actors do nefarious things. And actually, that's exactly what the vast majority of deepfakes are being used for today. They're not really being used so much basically for entertainment purposes. They're being used more to destroy democracy, sow division, increase the polarization of our societies, help create much more fractured governments and so on and so forth. Now, about a year ago, and this is a significant move, organisations, national security organisations like the UK's GCHQ, the CIA, NSA, as well as other members of the Five Eyes community, as well as sovereign governments, decided to give an official name to the act of state-sponsored actors weaponizing deepfakes on social media platforms in order to influence consumer behaviours. And they call them cognitive infrastructure attacks. Now, it's important that this sort of area is actually given a name, because once something has a name, you can gather policymakers around it and you can then start moving the regulations forward. And that's exactly what's happening. However, when we actually have a look at the regulatory landscape, I estimate that the regulators are 5 to 6 years behind the technology where it is today, let alone where it's going. Maybe they should call me, I don't know. Now, from an organizational perspective, we're actually doing a lot more with deepfakes than you might think. Now, firstly, if you're an organization and you are hiring remote workers, so say for example, the popular one at the moment is recruiting remote IT help and support desk workers, we've actually discovered, basically courtesy of the FBI, that the people that you might be interviewing on screen are actually not themselves, quite literally, and they're actually deepfakes. So you are interviewing a deepfake, and when you give the real person behind the deepfake a job, it's a North Korean cyber hacker who now has a password, maybe not an admin password, but has a password to your company's IT systems. And from a cyber perspective, if you gave me your password and username and treated me like an employee, imagine what I could do with that. Now, we also have biometric spoofing. Now, a long time ago, basically, we actually saw an individual, we don't know who they were, etc., create a voice clone of a CEO in Germany, and the voice clone phoned up a UK CFO, basically, of, in this particular case, an energy company in the UK. And the CFO in the UK transferred around $450,000 basically into a Romanian bank account. So when we use deepfake technology to clone someone's voice, and we then use that voice to extort money out of somebody or whatever it is that we're up to, that is called vishing. So it's like phishing, where it's a PH, except the PH is a V, so it's vishing. Now, in a natural progression of this, basically a little while ago, basically we saw deepfakes being used in China, and we saw APT actors using deepfakes in the Chinese case to get $89 million basically from the Chinese state. However, one of the more recent and interesting biometric spoofing attacks was a $25 million heist, and Arup have only just put their hand up to say, that was us. Now, in this particular case, what we had basically is we had a Arup entity in Hong Kong. So we had a CEO group in Hong Kong. And again, this CEO basically went on to a video call with a UK CFO basically and said, look, we want you to transfer $25 million basically into a bank account. Now, what made this particular scam interesting was the fact that, on the one hand, the CEO that was on the call was a deepfake. However, the criminals had actually gone to the trouble of taking photos or getting photos basically of the person who was being scammed, teammates and colleagues and people that he knew, and actually created deepfakes of his colleagues and put them onto the call as well. So as far as this individual in the UK was concerned, he was having a video call with his CEO out of Hong Kong and a lot of people that he knew. And so he transferred $25 million. Thank you for coming. Now, when I was in Geneva a little while ago, I was working with quite a lot of private wealth offices, and they said, well, actually, this is a problem for us as well, because how do we know, basically, that when Jeff Bezos picks up the phone to us or does a video call with us saying, please, could you transfer $100 billion of my money, basically, into a shady Romanian bank account, how do we know it's him? So this is where, from a company perspective, my recommendation is that you have a way to authenticate people and you make sure that you have the right processes in place. Now, a simple authentication method could actually be the use of multi-factor authentication systems and even just a personal physical device, you know, where the CEO says to me, Matt, please transfer $25 million. And I say, okay, that's fine. Can we just go to your personal device? Can you tell me the PIN number? Hackers don't have access to that. Okay? So we do have some relatively simple things that we can actually do to ensure that the likelihood that we are going to be scammed in this way is minimized. We've also actually seen other deepfake actors using clones of WPP's CEO. And now the deepfake clone of the WPP CEO was used against agencies. So the deepfake actor acted as WPP's CEO and asked their agency partners to set up new companies. So when you think about how your biometric information is being used in the wild, how could you be weaponized? And then how do you protect yourself against that, and your company against that, and your partners against that? I guarantee that the vast majority of you watching this have zero policies on that, okay? Let alone education and that sort of stuff. So, yeah, just a bit of fun there. Now, moving on, we have also used deepfake technology to create what we call biometric master keys. Now, I have fingerprints, obviously. However, did you actually know that we have certain patterns in common? So quite a long time ago now, we actually used deepfake technology, so this was general adversarial networks, to create a fingerprint master key. So if you'd got hold of my phone, basically you could have actually opened my phone with it, you know, all that kind of stuff. However, in addition to that, we also saw criminals creating master key faces, which they put onto passports. And these actually worked exceptionally well. So what we saw individuals basically with regular passports, but the image of their faces, or the face in the passport was a deep-faked image, but it got through all of the different biometric systems at airports. So when we think about deepfakes, don't just think, how can we actually use deepfakes to create funny cat videos? We're also using deepfake technology to manipulate and corrupt GIS data and satellite telemetry and all sorts of different things. In fact, anything that is, shall we say, image-based or image-centric is up for grabs. And that's just the top of that particular molehill. Now, when we have a look at general society, the vast majority of state-sponsored actors and criminals just want to manipulate you. That's really what they're looking to do. And recently in the Malaysian or the Indonesian elections, we actually saw a dead dictator being brought back to life. However, when the dead dictator was pushed through the social media networks, some networks picked it up as a deepfake, quite a lot didn't, and I'm going to play it to you now. However, I'm then going to show you what I did with the dead dictator's deepfake. Now, the clip is like 2 minutes 48, so I'm not going to play all of it, but I'm going to play the sort of start bit so you get a representative idea. Now here he is.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Pada 14 Februari 2024, kita akan berkumpul untuk menentukan nasib bangsa kita. Kita akan memilih wakil rakyat yang memiliki kemampuan untuk mendengar dan mewujudkan aspirasi masyarakat. Saya Presiden Soeharto, Presiden Indonesia yang kedua, mengajak Anda untuk memilih wakil rakyat dari Golkar.
So, I'm going to stop him there because unless you speak Indonesian, you're no idea basically what he's actually saying. So what I did is I took the Indonesian deepfake and then I deepfaked it again, and then I shared it on a variety of different social media networks, including LinkedIn, and you can catch me there if you like. It wasn't picked up by any of them. So, I would like to introduce you to the dead dictator of Indonesia, who now speaks fluent English.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. On the 15th of February 2024, we will gather to decide the fate of our nation. We will elect representatives who have the ability to listen and realize the aspirations of the people. I, President Suharto, am the second president of Indonesia. Invite you to vote for people's representatives from Golkar, who can continue my dream of Indonesia's progress. Since I took office, my dream is to build a developed and prosperous Indonesia. That dream is realized through infrastructure development, such as the Tau Road and the support of Indonesia's great engineers. President Jokowi and President Susilo Bambang Yudhoyono have continued this important work. Proof that our dreams never die continues to burn from generation to generation. Education as the main key to nation building has been realized through thousands of SD Invest. This commitment must continue to grow. I dream about AI schools and modern cybersecurity. Indonesian children's place can learn to be a leader in the world of technology. I dream that there will be no more hungry people. Basic food prices must be stable and affordable for all. Rule of law must be at the forefront in ensuring food justice for every corner of our land. This includes fighting the mafia, rice hoarders who harm the people. My dream is your dream, and my dream is the dream of the Indonesian people. I believe that together with Golkar we can realize this dream. On February 14th, let's use our voting rights to vote for Golkar. Let us face this election with an open heart, an open mind, and a burning spirit. Together for a better Indonesia.
And now, some patriotic music. But remember what I said at the start. If you want to manipulate societies, you need to control pixels and sound. Notice the tempo, basically, of that particular deepfaked deepfake. However, it's also the words, the emotional connection, all of those kinds of different things that actually are maybe even more important than the slightly lousy quality of the deepfake. Now, bearing in mind basically that over 2 billion people, generally lack quite decent education, the vast majority of people actually thought that was real. We've also seen the use of deepfakes in the recent Indian elections as well. And a lot of people basically thought those were real. So I don't have to create perfect 4K stereo quality deepfakes in order to get you to think that you are listening to an authentic leader or an authentic piece of video. Not at all. Now, when we talk about other kinds of deepfakes, we have deepfake audio, basically. So, why don't we just, like President or ex-president, maybe to be President Donald Trump, actually use deepfakes to do political assassinations? So, let's roll.
Hi everyone, welcome to our Ron DeSantis Twitter space.
Hello? Is my microphone working correctly?
George, can you just wait while we...
Hello? Can you hear me?
We can all hear you, George. Can you just hold on for a second?
Alpha, I don't think they can hear me.
I can hear you fine, George. Just speak to the
I don't think George knows how to use Twitter.
Hello? Can you hear me now?
Can I please make my big announcement now? Everyone just...
Hello?
Just shut up, George.
Can somebody just mute George?
Dick, could you try not to cough on the...
Okay, so how are we going to take out Trump, you guys?
Guys from the FBI, this is not a private call. This is a public Twitter space. Everyone can listen in.
God damn it.
Anyway, guys, we invited everyone to this Twitter space so Governor Ron DeSantis could...
Everyone just shut the hell up so I can make my announcement, okay?
You go, girl.
Wait, the devil is gay?
So what? Everyone in this call is gay.
Guys, can we please just calm down?
So anyway, guys, I just wanted to announce that
Okay, I can hear the governor very well.
Shut up! Would you please shut up already? I'm running for fucking president, okay?
Yeah, we kind of already
You
knew about
already
it.
know, Governor.
Congratulations, Governor.
Well, that concludes our Twitter space for today. Thank you to all of our...
Hold your horses, Elon. The real president is going to say a few words. The devil, I'm going to kick your ass very soon. Hitler, you're already dead. Dick Cheney sounds like you'll be joining Hitler very soon. Klaus Schwab and George Soros, I'm putting both your asses in jail. And Ron DeSanctimonious can kiss my big, beautiful 2024 presidential ass. Trump 2024, baby. Let's go.
And who invited the devil anyway? That's it. And was that the real Donald Trump? In fact, it probably actually was. Was that the real Elon Musk? Probably not, etc., etc. But either way, when we start really thinking how far we could push this deepfake boat, we've seen dead dictators being brought back to life, which brings their ideologies back to life and back to the front of mind for many, many people around the world. We've got audio deepfakes, basically, of all kinds of people. Who's next? What would happen, do you think, if somebody decided to bring back, metaphorically, a religious icon, like Jesus Christ? Can you imagine the furor or the turmoil that we could start seeing if people started literally resurrecting Jesus Christ and other religious figures and icons by using deepfake technology? We already see the polarization of society. There will inevitably be people who actually end up flocking basically to these figures. And if we can control pixels and sound properly, we can bring everyone from history back to life. And that is a very different kind of world, and it's a very different kind of psyops. We can also use deepfakes to scam everyone. Now, this one's a little bit old, but this is actually a cyber criminal's favorite. This is actually where we typically use a CEO to pump up our scam. So this is called crypto pump and dump. Hey, Ellen.
Project be and how will help people get rich right now? Today we are launching an investment project that is working right now. If you see this video, absolutely everyone can earn it. Everything is very simple. You invested your money in Bitcoin for TeslaTree.net is our bot, after which everyone who invested in their cryptocurrency will be able to receive exactly 30% of dividends every day from the investing amount. How long will it take for dividends to arrive? I'm sure that from 3 months. Is the number of seats unlimited? Yes, absolutely.
So that was video footage that was taken from Elon Musk's interview with ARK Invest. So the video footage is actually real, but people have actually manipulated what he says, and obviously the lip syncing and so on and so forth. Now that's actually about 2 years old. It fooled lots and lots of people, and we actually saw over $30 million being invested in what people thought was Elon Musk's new cryptocurrency. And it was a complete scam. Now, when we actually have a look at these, what we call crypto pump and dump schemes that use deepfakes basically to artificially inflate the price of a particular meme coin or cryptocurrency, we estimate that so far criminals have got away with over $500 million of crypto. That's it. And this is just the start of this stuff. You know, nowadays, basically, I could create a much more convincing version of Elon Musk to go and sell my crypto coin, which I think you should invest in because it's awesome. And also it's backed by President or ex-President Trump and ex-President Barack Obama. So I have a lot of people basically who actually say my crypto is just awesome. Go and invest. Now, of course, the best PsyOps strategies do something that I call living in the grey. Now, what we mean by living in the grey, and there are two facets to this, is firstly, if I wanted to tank Samsung's stock price, for example, so that I could buy it at the bottom and then sell it at the top, one of the best ways that I could actually do that is creating a single piece of information. But let me use this as an example. Now, if I created a deepfake of Joe Biden saying, I am about to marry the North Korean leader, you would think that that's probably fake, right? If we saw a video of Joe Biden saying, I am now going to launch a full all-out nuclear war basically against North Korea, we'd probably think that's fake as well. Maybe less so in the world that we live in, but nevertheless, we'd think that's fake. And Samsung's stock price remains resilient. Hurrah. However, if I created a deepfake of Joe Biden in the grey, in the middle of those two extremes, and I made it slightly believable, then I tank Samsung's stock price. And this is how I do it. I create a deepfake of Joe Biden announcing that he is moving the US 7th Pacific Fleet off the coast of North Korea. The quantitative trading artificial intelligence algorithms basically that are used by investors around the world would instantly send down Samsung's stock, and as a criminal I buy the bottom. We then eventually in time figure out that that information is fake and I sell at the top. Now, in addition to this, a lot of criminal actors are getting not just good at creating deepfakes and then creating the right kind of content to encourage the behaviors that they want, whether that's polarizing society, buying my crypto coin, still awesome, but they're also very, very good at gaming the algorithms. Because if I created a deep fake of Joe Biden in said scenario, the fact of the matter is on my social networks, at least 200,000 people would watch it because my social media presence sucks. I'm kidding, it's probably more like 2 people who'd watch it. However, if I know how to game the algorithms, if I have a Russian troll farm that is taking my individual piece of content and pumping it to the moon, all of a sudden 20 million people see it. So we have 4 prongs: control the pixels, control the audio, control the narrative, control the algorithms. And when we start having a look basically at the cyber landscape, the new cyber landscape, it is literally a game of giants. And this is a little bit of a play on words because we're all familiar basically with the game of cat and mouse, right? So I do a lot of work basically in the national security, CNI and cyber security space. And when we have a look at deepfakes, a lot of the conversations I have with researchers as well as with organizations and governments around the world is, it's a game of cat and mouse, isn't it? You know? Have you ever actually thought that as a government, that as a giant global multinational like Microsoft, who was actually at this session when I presented, in fact, I was on stage with him, have you ever thought that you're not the cat hunting the mouse in the game? That as a company, as a government entity, as a cyber company, you are actually the mouse? Because when we actually have a look at the size of the criminal market, we estimate that $1.2 trillion worth of revenue is generated by serious organized crime groups just in cyber alone. Last year, we saw cyber affect over $7 trillion worth of GDP. That is over twice the market capitalization of Microsoft. So when we say this is a game of cat and mouse, firstly, you're the mouse. But then even if we take it at face value and say, well, I am the cat and I am chasing the mouse is a bloody giant $7 trillion entity. And you, Microsoft, you're just a measly $3 trillion entity. We are up against significant forces here. And then in addition to that, basically, if I am actually the mouse and I'm generating content and everything else, I will push my content to Facebook, and Facebook might have good deepfake detection systems and everything else, or TikTok, or whatever it is that's going on at the moment. However, while TikTok and while Facebook and Instagram and all these other platforms might actually pick up my deepfake, I could put my deepfake on Mastodon or Blue Sky or on a completely different network. So I can still get my content out there, and I can still bypass a lot of the tools designed to detect it because I'm just using alternative venues, alternative channels and that sort of stuff. And then in addition to that, basically when we have a look at deepfake detection tools, there is no standardization, even though we're actually trying to detect deepfakes at the hardware level and the software/content level. The fact of the matter is, without any kind of standardization, we're going to end up with a fragmented ecosystem, and we're going to struggle basically to actually figure out what is fake anyway, just from an identification perspective. But it still remains the fact that in order to convince and con the vast majority of people on our planet, I don't need to create good deep fakes, as we've seen. Now, if I do want to bypass the vast majority of deepfake detection systems out there, then I can use something called an artificial intelligence adversarial attack. Now, this is where I change a couple of pixels, and by changing a couple of pixels, a machine vision system will think that a brick is a cat, or a cat is a llama, or a llama is a Ferrari. That's fairly straightforward to do. I can also stretch the images, resize things and everything else. That's kind of like a lowbrow hack. However, what's in this photo? And what colors are in this photo? Now, ordinarily, when I ask audiences this question, they sort of go, well, you know, there's blue, and there's grey, and then eventually you get people going, there's red, and it looks like a Coke can, right? So your brain is taking this image on this screen and thinking that is a red Coca-Cola can. However, there's no red in it. When you actually look very, very closely at the image, your brain is actually filling in the blanks and actually making different things appear red. But to an artificial intelligence, this is basically garbage. It won't know what this is, but you know or think that it is a red can of Coca-Cola. So even with the most sophisticated artificial intelligences on the planet today, they wouldn't pick this up as a fake. They kind of just wouldn't know what it was. But your brain knows what this is. Now, when we have a look at defenses, because we've talked about how we attack, this is how currently We are seeing some of the most leading edge companies in the deepfake detection space do what they do. Now, firstly, if I was a deepfake, then my face wouldn't be flushing. That's it, because all of our face flushes on camera. If you have a sort of a headshot, a standard sort of 1080p 4K camera, like a web camera, combined with artificial intelligence, can actually pick up minute facial flushes and everything else. So that's how we actually know that I'm real, for example, and not a deepfake. However, when we start combining different detection systems in depth, kind of a multimodal approach, this is where the deepfake detection systems are looking for body movements, facial texture, because maybe the skin on this side of my face is baby soft smooth, which is great. I am very young after all. And on this side, it's not. That imbalance, that's a bit odd. And we see that with deepfakes all the time. We've also got phenomes, basically when we have a look at things like spectral data. So spectral data is where we actually analyze basically voice pattern. So my voice tends to go a little bit up and down, and I sort of pause, and I'm really awkward to listen to. I know that. But also speech rate. If I naturally sort of talk at this rate, and then I suddenly go at this rate, it's really, really odd. Yeah. But then also voice prints, so for certainly for celebrities, we should be able to get voice prints fairly easily and everything else. But did you know basically that from a voice print perspective, we have 60,000 variations in our voices every second, and an artificial intelligence based microphone can actually pick that up. And so there's a lot of fingerprinting that we can actually do to detect whether or not a piece of audio from a forensic perspective is fake. So if I actually ran the Donald Trump deepfake that appeared on X a little while ago, basically through, for example, a voice print system, it would say these people are fake. However, when we actually have a look at sort of the more technical piece of the puzzle, we can look at things like chromatic spacing. Now, chromatic spacing is just a very, very fancy way of saying how the individual colors that make up an image are spaced. That's it. It's not necessarily about how grainy an image is, it's about the individual spacing between dots and colors and everything else. We also have color processing, because actually, did you know that different artificial intelligences, when they're creating deepfakes, will use different color processing systems? So one might appear slightly blue, one might appear slightly red. And to the human eye, you wouldn't be able to tell the difference, but to an artificial intelligence, it can. Also lighting. So for example, you'll notice that here I'm lit from above. So if someone did actually do a deepfake of me, don't, that's it, I will find you, then my mouth might end up having a slightly different lighting pattern to this 4K video. And then things like spatial noise. Now spatial noise basically is essentially just as it says, noisy portions of an image that just look out of place when we look at things forensically and statistically. And then we have artificial intelligence fingerprinting technologies. So again, did you know basically that depending on the general adversarial networks that you actually use to create your deepfake, or the CNNs or the Maklov filtering systems, there's a whole variety of weird things that we can actually use to create deepfakes, not just AI in general. Each artificial intelligence has its kind of own way of doing things. So each artificial intelligence has its own unique fingerprint. So we can detect that this is a Russian AI, a North Korean AI, an American AI, a Matt AI. Also, we can look at the positioning of individual content basically within the frame as well. I mean, maybe I have a cup that's floating mid-air. That one's a bit obvious, but again, we're looking at content positioning. Then there's also temporal continuity. Now, when we have a look at temporal continuity, this is simply where we are looking for continuity between individual frames. So for example, as I just did then, if all of a sudden, my hand is here, that looks a bit odd. So we're looking for temporal continuity. And of course, you combine all these different things together, and now you get into a better position to identify, or at least stand a chance of identifying, deep fake content. And then attribution. Attribution is the difficult part. That's kind of a different talk. Now, when we have a look at the deeper future, because let's now go really, really deep. Let's leave artificial intelligence behind, at least metaphorically. In 2019 or thereabouts, we could create content using our minds. I did say at the start, I would use my mind to create content. Now, in 2019, remember those Stanford images, basically where, you know, we use text to video and you look at the little video snippets and they look junk? This is where we got volunteers to look at different geometric shapes on a screen, and they were wearing skull caps. Their brain waves were captured by the skull caps, fed into an artificial intelligence, and the artificial intelligence, which was a general adversarial network, tried to recompile what it thought they were actually looking at. And you can see, basically, you know, we've kind of got a square and that thing and a plus and a cross, etc. So you can see basically this. Now, this particular technology is a mind-reading technology, a human mind-reading technology that is taking information from billions of human synapses in real time to create those images. And absolutely, those images looked a bit rubbish. Okay? So 2018, 2019, remember that time frame. Fast forward lots of years to 2022. Oh, it's high def. So this is where we use same set volunteers basically to have a look at this handsome man here, and the artificial intelligences, because they've been better trained, etc., generated that output. Now, on the one hand, I'll agree with you basically that the output isn't perfect. It's not a perfect copy basically of the original. However, it's really quite good. So today we are using artificial intelligence as well as the Unreal engines and all these other things to create a variety of new content in new ways, whether it's deep fakes, whether it is using the Unreal Engine to create movies and meta-humans and God knows what. However, we already have the technology to read your mind, to read the images and the movies that are in your head, the sentences that are in your head, compile them together and stream them to your favorite YouTube channel. So how will we then detect those? Because actually Mark Zuckerberg famously is already trying to create a non-invasive brain-machine interface with Regina Duggan, basically, who is the ex-DG of DARPA, which is the bleeding edge research arm of the US military, to create mind-reading technology that we can already stick into a decal, like a little sticker or a pair of glasses. That's a different conversation as well, to read your mind. And I know what you're thinking. Is that the end? And it is. So I hope you enjoyed the show. Thank you very much for listening. For those of you that actually got to the end, all two of you probably. And if you want to know more, you can download basically all of my different books and codexes and everything else basically from this link here. There's about 15,000 pages basically of futures content. If you don't want to read it all, I can recommend a good artificial intelligence to thump all my books into, and it can summarize them all as it's about future stuff, right? But no, my name is Matthew Griffin. Thank you very much for watching. And from me, it's goodbye.